that we get this, that our drive must be to pursue posture over position. So let me give you an example. Years ago when I was a youth pastor, which means I was the guy that was responsible for our high school and junior high ministry at the church I was at, I had this trip every year that we would take with our high school group, where there's probably about 50 or 60 of them that would go away for a week-long student ministry conference. So it was a time to kind of lean more deeply into the scriptures, try to understand them, figure out how to draw us closer to God as more than just a knowledge, but an encounter and a relationship with him, what it means to work that out. So it was a very intense week. It was a great week. We did it, I think we did it 10 years in a row. And there were thousands of kids that would show up. It was always hosted at a college campus. Most of the time it was at Wheaton in Chicago. And so there would be thousands of students that would show up, hundreds of different youth groups that would be there. And so it was this massive facility that would house everybody, and we would always use the cafeteria that the school would use for our meals. And because there were so many kids that had to get in to eat, what they would usually do is let all the youth pastors get in line first, and we'd get to eat. So we'd get our time slot, and we'd go in first, and then all the students would follow us. And even if you missed your time slot, like just as the youth pastor, you got a free pass. If you were an adult leader, you could just walk by a line of hundreds and just be like, I'm going to eat. And you could jump in front and go eat. So I was doing that one day. I was walking past this huge line. I had missed my time slot, but I was just going to jump in and go eat. And I walked by a couple dozen of my students, and they're all like, oh, it must be nice that you can go eat. I'm like, ha. And I kid you not, like out of a movie, I'm doing this like, ha, laughing and making fun. And I turn forward, and I run smack into the chest of this like 6'5" man who stands there, looks down on me. He's like, get back in line. And so I look up at him. I go, I'm a youth pastor. I'm like 24 at this point, and you just need to know, at the early 20s, I had not yet developed a man head, so I looked actually like I was still in my teens. So he starts arguing with me. He's like, you're not the youth pastor, get back in line. So then even my kids jump in, and all my students are like, nah, he's our youth pastor. He's like, stop it. He's like, get back in line. So I start arguing with him. And then it gets really awkward because my kids are trying to defend me, and then there's all these other people around. I have no idea who they are. They're all watching. It's creating a scene. So then I decide I'm going to double down on this, and I just start standing my ground for my position. This is what I am. This is who I am. I've been doing this the last couple of days. I get to cut in line. Why aren't you letting me cut in line? And he argues with me. He's like, you're not the youth pastor. Get in line. So finally he says, if you're really who you say you are, show me some ID. So I did, because now it's just so weird. So I pull out my license. I show him my license. He looks at that. He looks at me. He looks at that. He looks at me. He hands it back, and he goes, not my fault you look so young. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. So now I'm so humiliated, I just got in line with my kids. And we just stood there. We laughed, and we all went in together. And we had such a great time that every single day after that, I joined them. And I didn't cut ahead. And here's what was so cool. I realized talking to them over the next couple of days that none of them were mad or thought much of the fact that I got to go first. They loved that I chose not to. Jesus has all the position in the world in this moment, and yet he gives it up and takes the most humiliating, humbling posture in this culture, and those hands that hold this universe held their feet. In the book of Luke that tells the same story, there's a different aspect of this, a different way, a different moment that Luke describes some of God's presence here. Not different and contradicting, but different in fuller picture. I want you to see how Luke says it and what exactly Luke includes. Can we put it on the screen? Luke says this, for who is greater, the one who is at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who is at the table? He says, watch this, but I am among you as one who serves. What do you think he's trying to do here when he says, I am among you as one who serves? He's not saying I am as you and I say I am. Remember the I am. All the way back to Exodus, he's saying, guys, don't miss this. The I am is among you right now. Not as one demanding to be served, but as one who is here to serve you. So that leads me to my first thought for my own life, and then I extend it to you. A question for us. How would people describe what it's like for you to be among them? Jesus says, I am among you. I am among you as one who serves. How would people describe what it's like to be among you? Would they describe being among you as one who dominates, one who controls the conversation, one who is angry, one who is the life of the party, one who is the jokester, one who is the micromanager, One who is the complainer? How would they describe you in a room? How would you be described online among those who see you? Wherever it is, how are you described, do you think, among others? Is it as one who serves? Whether it's at work or whether it's in your family or at church or in your neighborhood or in a line that's taking too long to move, how would it be described to be among you and I? And would it be as one who serves or as something else? And whether it's something else that's negative or positive, the King of all creation says, I am among you as, and the as is one who serves. And remember all the way back to the first verse. He showed them the extent of his love, the end of his love. He said, I want you to get this among you. This is the greatest thing I want you to know of me. I am here to love you through serving you. So what would people say about us? What is it like to be among us? And the truth is, some of us may not know. So I would even challenge you to find a couple people that you trust this week and just ask them, hey, what's it like to be around me? And you might find some things that you're shocked by. You might hear some things you don't even want to hear. I wonder how many of us would hear a servant, one who puts others first, sacrificial, giving. Because Jesus says, the I am of creation is among you as one who serves. And I don't think he says it just for us to appreciate something about him in this moment of his deity and humanity come together in a collision, but he says it, he represents it for us to take something from that about what it means for us to be among others as his followers. When we love like this, like Jesus, when we love with this kind of humility, we will do things we wouldn't otherwise do. We will love in ways we wouldn't otherwise love. When we love like Jesus, it compels us to love to the fullest and to yield our power, and that becomes powerful. We cannot miss that everything was under his power. Again, this text reminds us so much of who he was, even all the way back to verse 3. Again, on your screen, verse 3 says, the Father had put all things under his power. All things are under his power in this moment. And the one who holds galaxies, who everything is under his power, comes to this earth and does not take a throne, he takes a knee. He takes two of them. And then he takes hold of filthy, smelly, dirty feet. The one who spins Jupiter, washed toes. And then says, this is the climax of what it means to be my follower and to love Peter, Judy, Craig, Mike, Joe, Susan. Clothe yourselves in humility if you're to follow me. Here's the second thing I think it means for us, is we have to be people willing not just to serve, but to get a little dirty when we do, to get some dirt on our hands. I'll tell you, for me personally, and we're all different, some of you are amazing. Some of you are phenomenal at how you serve people. You genuinely look for some of the most difficult ways. And you look for ways to serve people that the average person wouldn't. I would love to say that's me. I run right in to the hardest moments to serve, but that's not naturally me. I have to really work on that. Matter of fact, so again, back to being a youth pastor, one of the things that we used to do every year is we'd take this ski trip, and we'd take about 100 students away up north, and it was great. We had a couple charter buses. I'll never forget this one year. Marty Peters, he was 11th or 12th grade at the time, and he'd never snowboarded before, wanted to try to snowboard, and this dude just wrecked himself. He could not stay on his feet the entire time. And the worst fall he took, I was actually on the lift looking down, and I watched it happen. He bit it, fell, slid out, and then went right into a metal or a wooden post of some kind that was like a fence marker. I'm like, oh! And so I'm still pretty young at this point. I've got no kids. Like, when you have kids, you start thinking very differently. When you see a moment like that, I was just like, ah! You know, now having kids, I would be like, oh, concussion. Then I didn't. So like the rest of the day, he kind of called it out. He didn't do anything else, just said he didn't feel well. I didn't really pay much attention to it. You're like, you were a horrible youth pastor, probably. So on the ride home, we're on the bus, and he just doesn't look good. Like, he's getting white. He's a little like, ugh. So I start playing around with him. I'm like, hey, Marty, how many fingers am I holding up? And I'm doing this. Like, I'm like going all through fingers. And he like does this. He leans in. He goes, it just like projectile vomit, like right towards me. I barely move out of the way, and it's like, wah. Now we're on a charter bus. I don't know if you can think of a charter bus, but it's very narrow, right? There's not a lot of room in between seats. And the floor is that like ridged like flooring to kind of pick up all the water. So it's just all in that. It's on the seats. I mean, it's everywhere. It's sloshing up and down the aisle, right? I mean, I want you to get this. It's nasty. I have a horrible gag reflex. My entire experience of our kids growing up, every time any of them threw up, I'm like, Nicole! And I went the other way. I couldn't handle it. So I start gagging. I'm thinking, if I throw up, this whole bus is going to go nuts. This is not good. So I'm like, what can I do to help? Everybody's just staring. Nobody knows what to do. Marty's leaned over, still going. And so I'm like, I got to get him a glass of water. So I go looking for a bottle of water. Well, Rich Taylor, who was a senior at this point, who ends up becoming one of our adult leaders later on, Rich goes, we got to clean this up. So he asks, does anybody have anything? So the bus driver hands over this little paper wastebasket thing. He's got a little plastic bucket. It's not very big. And all Rich can find on the entire bus, I kid you not, was a single napkin. Yeah. So here's what Rich does. I'm not lying on this. He starts scooping it up with a napkin and into the bucket. And he's wiping Marty off, and then the floor, and wiping Marty off. How many wipes do you think on that floor it took before that napkin disappeared? I think it was 3 at most. And before I knew it, Rich is scooping up with his hands and putting it in the bucket and wiping Marty's mouth with his own sleeve. And I'm sitting there going, I got you a bottle of water. I think when we think of serving, we can develop a Jesus in our minds that isn't the Jesus of the Bible. And we can look for ways to serve people that is easy, less costly, less sacrificial, that doesn't move us out of our comfort zone, that doesn't require us to love people who are difficult to love. Frankly, what we do often when we look for opportunities to serve is we lean more towards the water bottle than the napkin. And I'm just telling you, if we're going to follow the Jesus of the Bible, the real Jesus is really hard to follow. But it's also really beneficial. Jesus wrapped up this whole moment with his disciples in verse 17. You remember? He said this, if you live this way, you will be blessed. We develop sometimes this Jesus that wants us to serve humanity on an easy scale. But the God of creation made sure that we understood that that's not who he is. That's not the depth in which he loves us, nor is it the way he calls us to love others. He says, get on your knees, humble yourselves, even humiliate yourselves, get some dirt on your hands, and love the way I, who hold galaxies, have loved you, with my hands on your feet. And you might go, well, I don't even know who to love that way. So I'll pay attention this week. And I would just say maybe it's a person closer than you even realize right now. Because remember, this is a group of people that's closest to Jesus. These aren't strangers. This isn't random. These are his closest friends and allies and companions. And it's not an easy group to love just because they're close to him. Among that group is Judas, who has already sold him out to the group that will ultimately end up killing Jesus. Peter, who will deny him at the cross. The other disciples who are going to run away when he's arrested. John, who will watch him die from a distance. And yet this is the group he chooses to serve, is those who are closest to him, and yet for many reasons, frankly, the most difficult. I mean, picture this reality. Jesus washed the feet and the toes of Judas, who had only some time earlier literally gone to the Pharisees and sold Jesus out. And Jesus knew it. And he washed his feet. That's why I think sometimes it's easier for us to wash the feet of strangers, to serve people we don't know, than people that are closest to us. That's why it's easier oftentimes to go on a mission trip than to serve your neighborhood. To meet the needs of a stranger than to serve a difficult family member. But maybe the truth is the person that God is asking you to be like him to is closer than you even realize it right now. And maybe, frankly, one of the most difficult people you could conceive of. I would actually tell you that I absolutely think that's probably true for me, given some things that have happened in my life this last week. I'm gonna watch a video for the next couple of minutes of a story that some of you might be familiar with. Donna McCulley, who has this incredible story of God loving her in such a way and changing her life in such a way that she felt compelled to do that for others in an unbelievable, humbling way. I also want to warn you, maybe some of you saw as you walked in, we don't usually do this, but if we're to give a rating to this video, it's probably a little bit PG-13. So if you're watching online and your kids are with you, or if you got your kids in the room with you, I just want you to have fair warning. It's not inappropriate, but there are some intense subjects in what she does to serve that are going to be in this video. And if it's a moment where she talks about going and serving those on the streets in the city of Detroit, where you're like, I might want to keep this one back for my kids, probably a good time to send them to the kitchen to go refill your coffee. Or if you want to take a moment to even go check out K-Kids here, or just wander the lobby and watch from a distance, but just wanted to give you that moment of warning. So for the next couple minutes, this is Donna McCulley and her story.
You are about to witness the very exciting story of a city and its people. That city is Detroit.
First time I went down there, I was scared.
Home of nearly 2 million people, which has brought Detroit to its finest hour.
I always gone into the city for plays, restaurants.
There is a renaissance, a rebirth in the city, the today of which we are a part.
But you never ventured into the areas around that.
There's a newness in Detroit.
Most of the houses are burned out.
Yes, Detroit is enjoying its finest hour.
It actually looks like a war zone.
It is a story of a city seeking new horizons in a resolute contest with great challenges.
The women in Detroit, there's someone who is lost, shunned by society, shunned by their family. The majority are probably in their mid-20s from the suburbs of Detroit. Very good looking, depending on how many years they've been out there. They'll get hooked on heroin, crack, whatever, and this is how they can get their drugs. They're not strippers in a nice club. They're not call girls. They're women selling themselves on the street. The lowest of the low. They sell themselves for a pack of cigarettes. I wanted to help these women because I could somewhat understand where they came from. When I was starting on the journey that God had sent me on, I really felt Him telling me to start my own ministry, and my mission was to reach out to women working the streets, selling themselves for money. I said, I can't do that. I'm not a leader. I wouldn't know the first thing of what to do. And in spite of my fighting this, He started opening doors. In 2001, I borrowed a van. I had a friend who was willing to go out with me, packed up the van with sandwiches, juice boxes, hygiene kits, and hit the streets. We prayed the whole time saying, we're not sure where we're headed, not sure what's gonna happen, but we're trusting the Lord that this is where He called me to go. Now we go up and down here a couple of times. The women are out here working, so there's gonna be, right now.
There's one on the corner right there.
Yeah. A lot of the girls live down here in these abandoned homes that have no electricity, no heat, no water. It's where they can live.
Oh, I was terrified my first night out because I was born and raised in the suburbs, and I was always afraid of Detroit. I was a person who took 275 around Detroit, so I didn't have to drive through it even.
Yeah, it was scary. Especially when you see and hear gunshots, see someone get murdered, find someone dead in a doorway, have someone put a knife to your neck and tell you they're gonna slit your throat. It's like, yeah, it can be scary. Okay, the next one we're going to is another crack house.
Who's this up here?
I know, we'll find out, won't we? Camera down. You can almost spot when someone is like new to the streets. She usually still has a pretty complexion, all her teeth. She walks around really naive to the circumstances she's in, not truly understanding the danger. If they're out there the next week, then the next week, and pretty soon it gets to be a month, a year, you see her deteriorate. You also see her start to withdraw even more, to pull in on herself. And that's really hard to see. Them, it's almost like watching them just fade away.
Oh, good. I was hoping it was you guys.
Hi, Precious.
Oh, I'm so glad it's you.
Okay.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Is everything okay?
Yeah.
It's very hard. I got jumped yesterday and robbed.
I'm
Thank you
sorry.
so much. I always look for you guys.
You know-
Thank you. Thank you guys.
God bless
You're
you.
welcome. As your relationship develops with the women on the street, they become more focused on the prayer. You can approach them. They're happy to see you. Oh, I need my prayer tonight. I need my prayer.
Hey, girl, how are you? How's it going? Fine. I love this. I got a friend back here too, so careful, we got a camera.
It's okay. You gonna pray for me?
Yes, you know it. Oh, Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for allowing us to see Tanya tonight, Lord.
Hi there, we're with Abide Ministries. Would you like a free lunch bag and a hygiene kit?
Sure.
Okay, may I pray with you, please?
Just the simple words of saying, can I pray for you? And have them break down and say, today was one of the worst days of my life. And I was praying that God would show himself. And you came along. You know it's not you. Just because I got in the van and drove down there, I didn't change anybody's life. But I got to be used to be an answer to someone's prayer. We're very grateful, very, very grateful for who she is, her openness, her love, her friendship. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I get tears in my eyes. It's like I even put makeup on today.
I know, you look good. I like that.
Just a little bit.
That reminds me, I got a donation of some makeup. You need some?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have it.
I got some
Somebody-
foundation
Hey,
and
you know-
lipstick and.
Over at Wendell's, they had still a bunch of my stuff. My shampoos, my conditioners, all my stuff was stolen.
Okay.
So, like, I'm crying.
Michelle, what do you think of these ladies here?
Oh, I love these ladies.
Why?
Just Donna, well, here I go. Donna's been there from the beginning, And she's been there from the beginning, from the day one, when I started walking the streets, and she's still there. She hasn't left me.
We love you, silly.
Everywhere I go, I don't care if I'm out of the area, they still come. She still comes to me. I don't want to cry.
When you ask if you can pray for her, and almost immediately she starts to cry. It's like such a privilege to be a part of that moment, because the life she's living, she doesn't have the right to cry. She would probably be beaten, ostracized. You don't let your defenses down. And the fact that she feels comfortable enough to cry with us, that says a lot about what God is doing in her life and giving her safe refuge. There are many nights, especially that I'm getting older, when I just want to stay home. I just want to kick back, put my feet up, not bust my back trying to load the van, and just do nothing. Sit home, read a good book, and not cry for the people I know I'm going to see. Why would you sit home and even deny yourself the chance to do life with somebody because you're afraid for your life. We're all gonna die. And we have no idea how that's gonna happen. I've had cancer twice. I've been through a lot of things that I probably shouldn't be here. And I'm gonna sit at home and do what? Watch TV? Watch life played out on a screen when I can live life with people? No.
I don't know what's, actually I do know. I think I'm watching that and I feel, on the one hand, like so sad for these girls. Like there was even a part of me that wanted to just go grab them all and hug them as well and let them know that they're precious to Jesus. And then there's equally this other part of me that feels deep sadness that more of those who call themselves followers of Jesus aren't known to be like Donna McCulley when they're among others. That should be what marks us. This is Joe, probably the most recognizable face at Kensington Orion, because Joe, if you haven't met yet, well, dude, you're at the door every single week on the way in and the way out, whether it's the music or the personality or the bright suits, like you're kind of hard to miss, man. Joe, I've heard about those. I haven't seen him yet. So Joe is one of my newest friends here since I've become part of Kensington, and have just gotten to hear his story of what God has done in his life to lead him to a place that he, in many ways like Donna, is saying, I just want to keep serving those around me. And I wanted you to hear Donna's story, and I wanted you to hear Joe's as one of our very own here at Orion as well. So, dude, tell us your story, man. How did you get here, and what do you do? What's God prompt you to do?
So about 6-7 years ago, I was in one of those valleys of life. And I found myself over at Troy, and I was sitting there, and they came up on the screen that next week, don't miss Shelby Kensington, the launch of Shelby. And I was like, you know what? I want to be there first day, new church. So I got there, and I was up in the back row by myself, and I started, like, I got to get to know people in this place. And I prayed, how do I get to know people in this church? And God said, you want to get to know the people in this building? Go stand on that door when they come in. And you say hi to every person. And you say good morning. And we were high-fiving. And we were playing music. And we were just having a great time. And it just became my happy place. And just grateful to wake up every morning and be able to do that. And to see the smiling faces. And to see this morning young kids skipping into church. I mean, just brings a smile to your face.
Even last week, you and I were standing out there talking, having a conversation about this morning, actually, and like every couple seconds, you'd be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Hey, goodbye, so good to see you. I mean, you made sure nobody walked in or out and wasn't acknowledged and seen and cared on.
That's one of the things. I think I can honestly say that at least 99% of you I said good morning to this morning as you walked in. That's a goal. I think that's very important, to be outside, not wait for somebody to come in, but get them outside. Outside of the traffic people, I think I'm one of the first faces to say something to somebody
For
rather
sure.
than, hey, go park over there.
For sure. Dude, you're totally the first impression of Orion. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And here's what I love, like, as God moves in us and changes us, and love even hearing, like, just the more I've got to know you, the story really comes out of how God has transformed your life. And as God transforms us, and as he moves us and compels us into his kingdom work, like, that takes on all kinds of faces, from at the door to in the streets of Detroit to countless other ways that are sitting here in these seats and at home right now, ways that frankly for some of us haven't even begun yet because you haven't moved, because God has been inviting you. Like Donna said, why would you miss the opportunity? Why would you deny yourself, she said, the chance to love somebody and be a part of their story? However God would move you to do that. Matter of fact, I would even ask, like, what would you say to somebody, because you weren't always serving. It wasn't always about the Joe who loves on other people.
Right.
So what would you say to the person that's kind of still going, okay, that's a great church idea, but I'm not going to get out and do anything for anybody, whether it's the Donna McCulley or the Joe story. It's just not me.
Well, that's tough. That's tough to follow. I work down that way, and I'm not sure I'm going to be down there doing that. I would say pray. If you feel like something's missing, You're not sure what it is. Everything may be great and hunky-dory, as they say, but you feel something. Pray on it. Get quiet somewhere. I always tell people, that I have conversations with God, and they're like, come on. I'm like, you get quiet. You try and shut off the world for a little bit. Go in a room, car, wherever it's at, not while you're at a light. I've tried that one. You get honked at. Just sit there and ask the question. Have a conversation. People have asked me on the construction sites, how do you talk to God? How do you pray? I'm like, it's a conversation as we're talking right now. And you just ask him, hey, God, show me what's upon my heart today. And actually be specific about it. Hey, I'm thinking about greeting. I'm thinking about serving. I'm thinking about checking in people, clicking. Anything. It's a community. This is family. This has become Kensington, without crying, help save me. And it's just become, you guys are my family. You're the newest member, but everybody here, everybody that I get to see in the morning is my extended family now. So I would say pray on it. Or the other thing is to just do it. Just jump in. But the journey is, I prayed on it, the answer came, I felt it, and I went to Antoinette at the time and said, I would like to serve, and I would like to be on that door right there.
Awesome.
And that was it. Here we are 6-7 years later.
And I want to say this too. I think that's a great step. Like if you're feeling compelled and you want to do something, you can talk to people here, figure out how to get plugged in and how to serve where your Joe spot is. But I would also say this, God may be moving you to something that has nothing to do with inside or even related to outside these doors. He may be moving you to do something entirely different. We want to help you do that. We want to help you move that way. So even if you're like, man, I got this idea, I have no idea where to get started, come talk to us. Like, we want to figure out how to help you get that started. We want to figure out how to support you, encourage you, pray for you, be the champion in your corner that says, as you move towards what Jesus has, we'll be your biggest fans. But the point is, move towards it. So one of the aspects of the story with Jesus and his disciples that I found really interesting this last week, and I never knew this until recently, is that the Romans also had a foot washing custom. And one of the reasons that the Romans, and I think this was true for most people in that era that did foot washing the way they did, is they would do the foot washing before dinner for a very intentional reason. Is that the hope is that this cold basin of water would start to kind of create an appetite, would whet your appetite essentially, so that when you had the meal, it would be all that more satisfying. It's kind of sneaky, like we're gonna make you hungrier in this moment so that when you eat, it's gonna be all that much better and more enjoyable. So it got me thinking this last week, why did Jesus in all of his intentionality wait to wash the feet until after the meal? If the custom was before, for that reason of increasing the appetite so the meal would better satisfy, why did Jesus intentionally wait until the end? And it made me wonder if it wasn't so that it would help the disciples increase their appetite for him, for what he modeled, for what he lived, that it would be their life and that they would realize nothing less than that satisfies that deep. I wonder if he was in fact trying to increase their appetite to be foot washers and to realize the satisfaction therein. Blessed are you who do this. Matter of fact, here's a song we're going to end with right now. I'm going to put just a bit of the lyrics up there, and I want to ask you a question. So we're gonna sing. Before that, do we have the lyrics of just that song? Okay. So the song says, "You can have my heart, you can have my mind." There it is. My mind is yours, my soul is yours. My emotions are yours, my dreams are yours. All of my plans are yours, my heart is yours. So here's my question to you. We're gonna sing that. As we sing that, you ask yourself in an honest moment, are his hands yours? Are his hands yours as well? Are his hands yours? So here's what we're gonna do this morning. We're gonna dip back to a 2,000-year-old tradition, and we're gonna bring it forward. And I'm gonna serve Joe, who so faithfully, weekly, serves all of us.
You love with no reservation. You're not
assume it's not every Sunday you go to church and find somebody on stage washing someone else's feet. And that might be, we talked about this. We knew, like, for some of you, even you're like, that was weird. I don't know what to even make of that yet. Or is it weirder that the God of creation, who commanded planets to be in existence, became one of us, loves us with an everlasting love, died for us when we put him on that cross, and takes care of us, tends to us, and washes us with his own hands? The only reason we are loved with an everlasting love by God is because of the humility of Jesus. Because God became one of us, clothed himself in human skin, and as Philippians said, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but released in that moment, and took on the posture of a servant. May we be the same. As God's love overwhelms us, may it continue to compel us that the world would be transformed by radical, unbelievable love wrapped in humility. It's been done to us. May we do it for others. We have a prayer team here this morning that would love to pray with you and encourage you. If you need that before you leave, they're directly back here. So stop by this door. They'll open in a minute with all the light coming out, and they'll be there to love on you. And as you leave, just a reminder too, this Wednesday is our midweek service here. I'm super excited. I get the opportunity this week at midweek to talk to you about really what is one of my most favorite messages and most important things in any aspect of our lives as followers of Jesus. So can't wait to see you back here on Wednesday and again next Sunday. Have a great week.